That's a that
Do
that
you
that
do?
that's a good question. It's a hard take though. Like I don't have an answer for that. I'm Pakistani. He's Pakistani. This guy's Jordanian.
He doesn't.
What are you?
Iraqi,
He
not
do,
Iraqi. My
yeah.
oh
bad.
yeah, right. Oh, he confused. Did he confuse it, or was he just annoying you there?
My mom's Irish,
Your mum's Irish
but my
and
dad's Iraqi.
your dad's Iraqi, and you two are Pakistani. But you all grew up in
Yep.
Canada.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
How do you guys feel about what's going on in the world at the moment with Israel? And I know that your communities probably feel pretty passionate about this issue.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you
It's
feel?
like, man, honestly, it's like, yo, we do whatever we can, right? It's just like at the end of the day, like there should be no need for like a genocide to be happening. Like all there
100%.
is, there is a conflict between them two, but at the end of the day, they should not continue to be firing missiles and continue the genocide. Leave it how it is. Like if it needs to be in an encampment or whatever it is, like we all know, like as Muslims, like we know that Palestine won't be free until like the way we believe, until like the was Imam Mahdi and like Prophet Isa, until they come. There's like different
I,
major signs that come. That's what we believe right now at the moment.
Honestly, outside of all of that, bro,
Yeah.
just keeping
The
it
the
real.
killing. It's just the killing that needs to stop.
Sure. Is it
It's
the killing?
just
Is it the killing on both sides? You think? Like, do you agree what happened on October 7 was unacceptable?
On October 7th was just what do you call it? A rebellion or a retaliation? You know,
What do you mean?
and then
technically, under the Geneva Convention, it like say like a country that is occupied, you are allowed to resist within the limits of your borders, right?
Hmm.
And because Israel is constantly, since like them coming to Palestine, has constantly been pushing those borders and constantly settling inside of Palestine, taking their land and kicking people out and killing them, then technically you are allowed to resist with lethal force as much as you can, as long as it's inside of your borders. The problem is, like, I mean, I don't agree with killing, period, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that taking the life of another person is ever okay, but it is definitely understandable when you push people to the brink, to starve them, to kill them, to imprison them for no reason, and to steal their land, that obviously they're going to fight back at some point, because it's just human
Okay.
nature.
Can I ask you two things? So, firstly, do you agree that rape is not a legitimate form of resistance?
Of course not, no.
Yeah, because again, the Geneva Convention doesn't allow that. And so a lot of the atrocities that happen on October 7, we can agree that they are
But
that
but
they.
we've proven that that didn't happen. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it did happen, but I'm not going to argue that. Even the UN recognizes that rape happened, that kids were burnt alive, that people were beheaded. And you don't even have to listen to the UN. You can watch their own footage from the cameras on there. But if we can agree, it's weird that people are denying what they themselves streamed on the day. But if we agree that it did happen, you agree that that's wrong. You just don't
Yes.
it
believe it
is
happened.
wrong.
You just don't
It
believe it
is
did
wrong.
happen.
I,
Yeah.
I will tell you this, not just on October 7th. Like this is what Israel has been doing. What
No, no, no.
Palestine?
I know. I'll get to that, but
Yeah.
I get to that, but like, so then
No,
you
I
say,
understand. Like
but
it's
you say they went into so Gaza hasn't been occupied since 2005. So they weren't within their own borders when they went across the borders and they committed these atrocities. My question is, what could Israel do to one their goal was to disarm Hamas, stop it from happening again, and getting their hostages back. How do they do
yo,
that?
wait. I have a better question.
Yeah,
So we all know everything as you know. There's obviously you're gonna have people with different opinions, right?
yeah,
Whether
of
it's
course, of
this
course.
side A or side B. So the better question would be, what? How could we, instead of saying who's right and who's wrong, because everyone's gonna justify their own
Yeah,
reasoning for that, right?
okay.
As you know, like especially if you speak to like
A Muslim, a
if you
Jew,
find
I get it.
you get what I'm saying. If you speak
Yep.
to a Muslim, they're gonna side
No,
with
I
that way.
understand,
You
but I want to
speak
get to the bottom of
religious
the.
beliefs, cultural
Yeah.
beliefs, or you know what a better topic would be?
What?
What can both nations do to come towards peace? Like what can
I
happen
agree.
now?
Okay. Tell me. I like that. I like that. The only reason why I come at the other way is because I feel like so much of the history is rewritten or some of the facts are distorted. So I feel like you kind of need to get them straight before you move on to peace. But how would you answer what you just asked me? How would you get to
Dude,
peace now?
dude, that's such a good question because if I look at it in both perspectives, let's say if I look at it from the other perspective, right? Let's say if
Yeah,
I was to look at it from Palestinian
yeah,
perspective, right? And
yeah.
then you look at it from those people that are living there right now, okay? And if they're, they're growing up and kids and stuff, and they're seeing, let's just say, if their parents are dying or their brothers and sisters, whatever it is,
Yep.
they're gonna have that urge of always wanting to fight back. And then the same for the Israeli side as well. You get what
I totally agree. So how do we break that cycle?
and that's what I'm talking about. So what do you do to just how do you overcome that where it's like this will be a continuous cycle going on for
Tell me,
years.
mate. Tell me you have the answer.
I
This.
wish I had the answer,
Okay.
bro, but I don't, or else
Okay.
I'd
So
be up there with Trump.
I agree with you, and I I dare say I talk to a lot of people, and I think that's like ideally most people probably believe that, but the problem is the reality that we have now on the ground. So the reality now that we have on the ground is that from Israel's perspective, they want to ensure that October 7 cannot happen again, and that they want their hostages back.
Hostages. Yeah.
So, how can Israel do that in a way that you would think is justified and okay?
So if okay, so let's say in this perspective, so we know what Israel's side is asking, right? They're saying, okay, two things. Number one, how
Yep.
could you guys how could we know first of all if October 7th will never happen
So we
again?
can live in peace side by side. How can we ensure that?
How
Yep.
exactly, right? And
Yep.
number two, bringing the hostages back. If
Yep.
let's say if the hostages were released, right?
Yep.
That's step one into a process of number two. Now the second process now is sitting down with the leaders of obviously the ones that are doing the war on both ends, and then coming to a conclusion like how
But
do
don't
we
you
trust each other?
but do you think that Hamas should be able to lead Gaza when now you're seeing in Gaza itself Palestinians are rising up because finally Hamas is being weakened to a point that they're not as afraid to rise up against them. Do you think that Hamas really should be leading the Palestinians because they have so
Well, you're
far?
gonna have to find some sort of Palestinian form of government, and you're
Sure,
correct in
should
a
they
way.
not
But
have to
then
have?
how do you bring that? How would you bring that government?
Well, there is already. So there's. I don't know if you know much about the geography at all, but there is already, and I'm no fan of them, but there is already a Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. So they could take over in the interim, and the world can demand that they actually run free and fair elections. I don't know. I don't have the answer, but what I do know from Israel's side, Hamas can't be there because that is the threat. They have promised to do October 7 over and over again. So from Israel's perspective, they can't do that, and they just need their hostages back. So if those two things happen yesterday, the war would be would be over. So, and my question to you is, how do we get to that? So that then the next thing, what you're talking about, which can only come through negotiation, can happen. How do we get there in a way that you guys would support it?
Yeah, that's a really good take on it, man. Like
I promise you, bro.
here's the thing, dude. I'm gonna keep it real too. Like
Yeah,
as much as we sit over here and then we go like this can happen, that can happen, as you
yep,
know too as well, bro. Palestine and Israel is surrounded by a lot of those countries. Like how they say Muslims stick together. There's a saying in Islam where it's like if one part of your body, like it's a relative to your body, right?
the
If one part
Ummah,
of your
the
body hurts,
Ummah sticks
it
together,
hurts.
has to stick together.
Yeah, it hurts everything else, right?
Yep.
But how could you live by that sentence when these bigger, Arab nations, very wealthy Arab nations, aren't even sticking by their side? You get what I'm trying to say? It's a very like
I would counter that with it shouldn't be tribal. It shouldn't be just because I'm a Muslim, and that's what I have, having conversations, and I talk to Muslims all around the world, and they go, oh, I just essentially stick together because we're Muslims, and this is like that's once you kind of break it
but no,
down.
but that's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that shouldn't be the point because
Yeah,
that's the point you're making. But then your real life example is no one's really sticking together. You know, it's
That is
not
also
that.
true, but that's like if you look at the Arab world, like once everybody's kind of united when it comes to Israel and the Jews, but then when you go beyond that, then there's so many layers of tribal infighting, whether it's Sunni, Shia, and then all the different denominations beneath that. So it's very hard for them to stick together. But the one thing that they seem mostly united on is the Israel Palestine question, and which would be odd if there wasn't such a simple explanation, because they want to stick together against the Jew. And I just fear with that there's never going to be a way out of it. When we look at when you have the entire, so 2 or close to 2 billion Muslims around the world who automatically just go to by default to the Palestinian side, and so almost anything, and that's why I ask you, what could the Israelis do that you would be okay with? Because no one seems to be able to give me something, because I feel that in essence, there's nothing they'll be okay with, unless the Palestinians just win, and that's it.
And I remember that was the point I made earlier too, right? So think about it with this perspective too. Even if from Israel's side, right? You ask for those two things. First of all, we want to ensure the October 7th doesn't happen.
Yeah,
Second of all the hostages get released. But and then let's say you erase the fact of that Hamas is in control or they're absolutely no longer in the region.
yeah.
Then the other issue arises is the fact that, man, like all these people in those areas that have all that anger in them too. That's also another situation that's
I,
going to
I
arise
know,
as
I
well.
know, but in history we've dealt with that before. So if you look at Nazi Germany, we were able to de-radicalize and take the hate away from the German population. Is it going to be as easy? Well, it's been a lot longer. So this is a war that's been perpetuated, and it's a lot deeper. Like there's also religious undertones to it. So I don't know the answer, but I can tell you this as somebody that had very little faith. When I looked at Trump's Abraham Accords in his first administration, that was the first time I actually saw a way out. Because I saw genuine real peace between Arabs and Jews, Arab states and Jews. Like I'm talking about genuine. I go to the UAE, I travel there, and it's not like we tolerate you. It's you're treated like a brother. And
Yeah.
when they showed me that, when Trump pulled that off, I realized, okay, there is a way to de-radicalize, because even the UAE, if you look before the Abraham Accords, and I did this with people in the UAE, there was a lot of hate that was spewed from them. I was doing just now the people before you were from Saudi, and they immediately turned to cursing me out, even though I'm not really in Israel. I've just got it set to Israel. But they immediately went to cursing me out. And the UAE was very similar to that prior to this agreement. So this is my long-winded way of saying that I think it is achievable. The only way we can achieve it is probably with more mutually respectful conversation between
Yeah.
Muslims and Jews around the world.
No, you're right. Here's the thing, man. We don't curse anybody out or
Yeah,
any
yeah,
of that
no,
stuff. Like we're hella respectable, bro.
you guys
Like
are big. Look, tonight I've spoken to like heaps of respectful people and then heaps of just hateful people. It gets a mix. So there's not one group of things, but obviously we have seen around the world the explosion of hate and the targeting of Jewish communities everywhere, even here in Australia. And it's like I don't. This is not going to a good place for no one. Not for the Palestinians in the Middle East, not for the Israelis in the Middle East, not for Jews around the world, and definitely not for either. I don't think for Muslims around the world. I think this is where we're going at the moment is a dark place. I've seen in Canada as well. It's been there has been some shocking instances I saw, but shootings of synagogues and things like that, all in the name of freeing Palestine. Like, how does that help the situation?
I'll tell you this too, man. Like even with these, like like even in our, like, yeah, that's crazy to even response in that way too is
I
just
mean,
insane.
the thing is, right? People are outraged and they want to do something about it.
But
It's
they're
just
going the wrong way
that
about it.
no, 100%. I'm not saying it's okay. It's just because people don't really know how to channel their anger, and then they'll do the worst.
So
Which is not okay though.
No, of
yeah,
course,
no,
yeah.
I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate you saying it like that. But can I ask you, why do you think people are so obsessed so more talking at the Muslim world, because that's kind of I feel like what was really driving it. People have attached themselves to it. But why do you think the Muslim world is so obsessed with the Palestine, Israel, Gaza war, but don't seem to care about all these other wars in the Middle East where far more men, you look at Assad, you look at all the wars in the Middle East where so many more people were butchered brutally, and none of these groups came out. Nobody seemed to care. Why is the focus on that particular conflict?
It's the way that I look at it is that nobody cares about the genocide in Congo
Yeah,
or
why?
anything like that
Yeah, why?
either. And the reason why is because this war is being broadcasted to us in a way that none of the other ones were, where we
Really,
can see pictures.
Ukraine, Russia, it's being broadcasted. There is nowhere near the amount of heat on it, and a lot more people have died. Assad regime in Syria, they butchered. How many did they kill in that period of time? 400,000. Like,
It's still going.
sure, and nobody cares. Sudan, nobody cares. Like all these regimes around the world, but the way that people are treated in Iran, nobody cares. But they're so focused on this war that, in the grand
Yeah.
scheme of things, is tiny. And I would ask you, why do you think that is? Because I do have, I have a theory as to what it is. Um, and and Yemen. Yeah, Yemen is what, like, my family's from Yemen originally. Like, the Saudis have killed 400,000 Yemenis, and now and you've got these people rallying around the world celebrating the Houthis, terrorist
By the way,
organization.
I would have never guessed your family was from Yemen, bro. I would
Yeah,
have thought Lebanon, if anything, bro.
nah, bro. No,
Same.
you know what's funny? My family. So my family, and this is another part of the Middle East conflict nobody talks about. My family escaped Yemen and found refuge in Israel when the Arab world turned against them. They weren't Zionists or whatever back in before 1948, but they were forced to go to Israel, and half of Israel is made up of Arabs like my family. And then, my stepkids, they're Lebanese Muslim stepkids. Like, in Australia, it's different. We're really diverse. So I don't really care about that, but I recognize that there is a problem in the Muslim world in which it's so clear that everybody's ganging up tribally to target the Jews, and they're happy to be fully misinformed. Everybody kind of spews out the same talking points. Don't really know the conflict well, because it's just been the lies have been shared so many times over, and nobody has a real way to get past it. But it won't get sorted when you have almost 2 billion people siding with one side only because I feel like they're on my team. They're my cousins. They're part of the ummah. So how do we get past that?
Yeah, no, that's a that
Do
that
you
that that's a good question. It's a hard take though. Like I don't have an answer for that.
But do you agree that that's a thing? Like, in the Muslim world, there's like an automatic in your community to side with the Palestinians because it just is accepted. People tell me I used to rally for Palestine when I was 10 years old. And, like, as in, that's an argument as to why they care so much about it. My question is, why did you care about it so much when you were 10 years old? Did you go to any other protest for people who were also killing Muslims? No, you didn't, because it was other Muslims killing Muslims.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
this issue...
and so I'm so sorry to cut you off, bro. But
No,
by
you
the way, there's another thing with the protests as well, man. There's a lot of people out there, especially Muslims, bro.
They're not even protesting.
Like we won't even like none of us have even partaken in a protest, man.
Yeah.
And there's a big group of us that don't even go to protests because the way we think about it, it's like in our, like, for example, our mindset is like, man, you just pray to God, man, for peace. That's all it is at the end
Yeah.
of the day, right? Like, to go to protests, to drive your cars around and this and that,
Free
bro.
mix, play music, destroy stuff. Like,
Destroy
it's not
stuff.
worth it.
That's not how
Yeah.
it. That's not proper, dude.
Not at
Yeah.
all.
So I'm like here too in Canada, man. They're huge over here. And obviously they're probably big in other areas as well.
They're big.
Like,
They're big here too. Do
yeah,
you think that do you think there's like an anti-Jewish problem within Islamic communities around the world?
It's not more like an anti-Jewish problem. It's like more like along the Zionist, because we know like Judaism is like not the issue.
they're like our brothers.
Yeah, it
Call
shouldn't.
them people of the
But
book.
Religion
yeah,
should never be.
everybody says that. But do you know, like, Do you know for Judaism, like,
Yeah.
okay, so there's a very small group of Jews that are not Zionist for different reasons. Okay, there's a tiny
Of course.
group. There's the Torah Jews, the guys that you see at the protests that love to support those radicals, and they're anti-Zionist because they believe that according to the Torah, that Jews can't rule in that land until the Messiah comes. So it's not that they don't believe
Yeah.
Israel is God's given land to the Jewish people. It's just that they believe that it shouldn't be now. It's against the Torah.
Absolutely.
Then you have like the far left wing, woke. They're just like the same as every leftist around the world. So they go by the narrative of the colonizers and all, like exactly what they say in Canada about Canadians. So it's that narrative. But the vast majority of Jews are Zionists because firstly, it's the ancestral homeland, but also, do you know how every single Jewish holiday ends? Do you know what we say at the end of the Jewish holiday for thousands of years?
No.
So every Jewish holiday ends with next year in Jerusalem. So Jews have been yearning to go back to Israel since they got kicked out thousands of years ago. I'm not saying that I'm not particularly religious, so I'm not saying it justifies anything. All I'm saying is the argument that we're anti-Zionist but not anti-Jewish. Zionism is entrenched in Judaism. It's like you can't really separate them because even the only Jews that actually really separate them, so not those Torah Jews that say that we'll go back there once the Messiah comes, the only ones are the lefty Jews they've got mental illness. I can't help that. That's just like they claim that they want everybody to live with perpetual guilt about everything. So but every other Jew is a Zionist. There's no such thing. And a Zionist is just somebody who believes in Jews having the right to their home, to live in peace in their ancestral homeland. So what is wrong with that concept? That doesn't mean it should be at the expense of Palestinians. It just means Zionism doesn't say that we need to kill Palestinians. It doesn't say all it is that Jews have the right to live in their home, in their ancestral homeland, peacefully and to govern themselves, because history has taught us that the only place that Jews are really safe at the end of the day is in a land that they govern themselves. What is wrong with that?
It's a good point, but I want to go back on your take. Like, my bad for not answering the question. I just want to go back on your take about how you said what's it called? Why do the Muslims like only care about like the Palestine-Israel situation so much? Because like I to myself, I'm like, yo, why is no one talking about the Uyghur Muslims that are encamped in China?
Uyghur Muslims in China.
Yeah, everyone forgot about that. Everyone
And
forgot about
I've seen more than that.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of pro-Palestinian groups now deny the plight of Uyghur Muslims in China, and because they see China as an ally with the Russia and Iran kind of so they think China might be our ally against Israel. So forget the Uyghurs. That's a perfect point.
Yeah.
So why is it?
The thing is, the way I see it is because like the Masjid al-Aqsa, right?
Yep.
That's in Palestine, right? The only reason is because it is the third holiest site.
Yep.
Over there, and that's why it becomes more of a religious reason, because like our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, what's it called? He would always lead prayer there. What was it? He didn't die there. No,
he didn't die there. I think did he come there on a cloud? You guys say he came there on a cloud or something?
He died in Medina.
But I know.
I forgot the reasoning, the reason behind it, but I would have.
But it's your third holiest site.
It was our first Qibla.
It was the first Qibla, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
And it was his journey too, his night journey.
Yes, his journey. That's what it was. It was journey, right? That's why they care about the site so much, and like how it's like disconnected from.
But it's a very important place for Jews as well.
Exactly. So I was about to say this to you. I was about to say to you this. Al-Aqsa is your third holiest place.
Yeah.
For Jews, that is the holiest place. Right? Mm-hmm. It's the one place. It's number one. We don't have Mecca, Medina. And so let me ask you this. Let's say Palestinian Muslims ruled Al-Aqsa. Right now, Muslims go to pray there every single day, 5 times a day. In fact, I've been there and I'm not allowed in the mosque because I'm not Muslim. But but Jews can go to the Western Wall, which is the bottom part of it, which is actually less holy. Al-Aqsa is actually the holies of holies. Many Jews, like religious Orthodox Jews, don't believe you can go up there because it's too holy, right? But let me ask you this: if Muslims, if Palestinian Muslims controlled Al-Aqsa, do you
It
think
would it
Jews
would
would
turn
be
it would turn into what the Kaaba is. They would make it into just for Muslims.
exactly my point? And right now, because Jews control it, Muslims get to pray there 5 times a day. Christians also, that's their holy sites there as well. They get to pray. Jews get to go there 3 times a day. They pray. So, like, this is what, when people in that movement describe Israel as an apartheid state, I'm thinking, hold on, a fifth of the country, so 20% of the country is Muslim, and they share all the same freedoms and privilege, everything. They're an Israeli citizen. They've got a passport. They're not Palestinians. All right, I don't know if you know the difference between. They share all the same rights as a Jewish Israeli. But if a Jew wants to go to Mecca, if a Jew wants to go, and if it flipped hands, there would never be that freedom for Jews. So who's the apartheid one? In Saudi, we can't go to Saudi. There is
You
actually
can't.
apartheid rule. But you claim that the one country that actually practices free religion for all is somehow a racist apartheid country, when it just simply, the facts are, it isn't.
Yeah, see, and that's where now it just comes down to like you just need someone on both sides or just one side to like see how you're communicating and have someone just communicate like that, where
Yeah,
it's like, look,
I
this is
feel
the
like,
facts,
yeah.
this is the reasoning, this is the issue. Now, how can you just go forward with it, right? Like, if one group took over, then what happens if it turns out to be just like the Kaaba, right? Where at one
It
point,
will. It will. If we're being honest, it
no,
will.
no, it will hundred
Yeah.
percent,
Yeah.
100%, because the Kaaba at one point used to be a time. There was also
Well,
in
Medina,
Islam, there's a
wasn't
story.
Medina where the Jews came from? That was the Jew.
Medina, yeah,
That's how
and
it
Mecca was
became.
all.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Mecca was also a place where when the pilgrimage for Hajj used to happen, at one point they used to do it with Muslims and there used to be Muslims and then the second group,
The Quraysh.
the Quraysh, and
It
who
wasn't until like 5 years before the Prophet's death,
with
sallallahu alaihi
Abu
wasallam,
Bakr, yeah, with Abu Bakr and someone else when they went there, and
and
then
then
that's when they made the rule saying, nah, now it's only Muslims allowed.
it
And
wasn't that.
that,
That's when they destroyed all the idols around the Kaaba. It
And then
wasn't.
and then they were
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so
but
that's what he's saying here. Then
yeah.
he's like, if it was the other way around, and let's say Muslims took control of Alexa, he's like, Jews find that place as number one holy spot. So what's the insurance that if it was given to Muslims, would Jews be able to visit Alexa? Because to them, it's their number one holy spot.
And they won't be. And nobody can honestly, with a straight face,
Nah,
convince
bro,
me
I'm gonna tell
other.
you straight up.
No, no, no. I
You're
agree.
right.
What
Yeah.
and I would go beyond that. I'd say to you, so Israel in general. I don't know. You guys are Canadian, so you can go visit Israel and see for yourself instead of just um, relying on what you see on social media or wherever you're seeing it to get your information. But what I would say to you is Israel in general, in the Middle East, and I've traveled a bit of the Middle East because I am Australian, and I could tell you that Israel is one, the most diverse country in the Middle East, and is the safest country for even Muslims, like Israeli Muslims. I'm not talking about Gaza or the West Bank. That's a separate issue. I'm talking about Israeli Arabs. So 20% of the population. The CEO of the biggest bank in Israel is an Arab. So Israel is, and if you have a poll, like even when I come on this app and I talk to, and I land in Israel and hit an Arab, I ask him, where would you like to live? Would you prefer to live anywhere in the Middle East under any rule, or even if Palestine went over to the Palestinians, where would you rather live? And they will say to you, if they're being honest like you guys are now, they'll go Israel, because even the Palestinians in the West Bank, they come and work in Israel because they get better pay and better rights, like because there's actually law and order. Like, where in the Middle East do they protect your rights like they do in Israel? Because it's like a Western democratic society. It's just like you living in Canada and me living in Australia. Israel might not be to that extent, but it is up there. It's a Western free democracy where before the law, everyone is equal. And I think the hate that is directed to Israel generally always is just so misguided. And I feel like if actually tolerant Muslims who believe in peace traveled there to see it for themselves, they would get a completely different perspective.
Let's make a good point.
Would you ever go to Israel? Would you go and travel to Israel to see it?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm broke, but like,
I know, I'm saying in theory. In theory, would you do
in
it?
theory, I mean,
Yeah, why not?
yeah, why not? There's no,
Listen,
no reason not to.
I'll say to you this. I'll end on this. I'll say to you, brother, I hope you're not broke for too long. And I hope when
Thank
you
you.
can
Me
afford,
too.
and I hope when you can afford it, you make the effort to do it, and to do it with an open mind and open heart. Because I feel like your heart's already open, so I don't have to tell you that. But go there and experience it for yourself, and then try next door. Go to Jordan or Egypt. Like, see for yourself the difference in how minorities are treated. Guys, I love you. Really appreciate this conversation.
Yeah,
Nah, it
thank
was
you. It
really
was
nice
good.
chatting with you too,
Honestly,
man.
this is a good, friendly and respectful conversation.
Of course.
You don't get this often when you go on like talks like these. Everyone's just like, again, like you said, like there's people with hate on this app.
Trust me, I know. I have it set to
Like, yo,
Israel.
like,
Half of them
like
start with people cursing me.
Yeah,
yeah,
they
and
start
but
with
it goes even the opposite with us.
Yeah,
Like as
like
soon
what
as
the
like for example, right? Like when you ask like, oh, what's your ethnicity, right?
yeah.
He said Pakistani, I said Pakistani. If we say that to other people, they like because you had a full conversation with
Yeah.
us. As soon as they hear the Pakistani, they assume, oh, okay, or Iraqi, they're three Muslims, and bang, bro, just going right at us. We're like, yo, chill, bro. Like, it's
Look,
not like that.
there are bad people in all groups,
Of
but
course.
Of course.
what's that saying? Evil prevails when good people do nothing. Something along those lines, and that's the truth. That's the problem that I see now with what's happening around the world. There are I'm seeing just on this app. There are good Muslims. There are bad Muslims. I
Of course.
just hope that the good Muslims start speaking up and don't convince themselves that it's all justified because they're believing the stories they're hearing or the reports they're hearing, or they're not believing some of the stories that are the atrocities that happen on the other side, and they stand up for what is like right. And I believe, like, talking to you guys, I don't know how long we spoke, but talking to you guys, I feel like in your hearts you would stand up if you really saw the truth, and that on one level gives me hope. On another level, it saddens me that the world is so divided and so full of hate now because not enough people are stepping up and
Yeah.
speaking out.
Of course, like the way we see it right now, it's like it's just the matter of being patient now, because, like you said before, it is looking like it's gonna be a back and forth situation because it's hard to find a solution to this means because it's like basically turned into a religious problem at this point, right? You would say.
I think it was almost, depends how you look at it. It's
Yeah.
been a religious conflict from the 20s.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
it's
even
like
you could argue even before that, like my family came from Yemen. There were periods where they were treated good. There were periods where they were dhimmis and had to pay the jizya and all that. Like, so it's been a religious problem for
time now. Yeah.
Anyways, guys, have a good night. God
You
bless.
too.
You as well too.
Take care,
Good
bro.
talking,
Take
man.
care, man.
If you enjoyed that full conversation from my latest live stream on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and share it far and wide. And then if you haven't done so already, if you're not on my YouTube, go to my YouTube, but subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell now so you never miss a live stream. You can join me as I'm having these conversations in real time, unedited, unfiltered. Subscribe and hit the notification bell right now.